Alright, how you doing? Good to see you, good to be here. This is as much an update as it is an initial, you could say disclosure. I came out to the woods a little bit, as you can see. Camera's tied up with a vegetable tie. It's usually around the vegetables to a tree, so we'll see how well that holds. It's already fallen down a few times. There's a lot to talk about, but only a few things really need to be said. The reason I began doing any of this, speaking to people about these issues, speaking about my experiences, is because I was instructed to. I'm a little nervous now, even being on camera, even though I'm in the woods away from many distractions. I guess my mind is the biggest distraction. Something we're all going to learn. Part of the human race is going through now, learning to discern between the distraction and the truth within, without getting too metaphysical or vaguey. Try to reduce the ums. So I was instructed to by the secret societies and what appears to be, by all means, a type of higher authority or council. And excuse me, they interact between societies, between civilizations, and possibly times. It's not possibly, but we'll get to that point in time. Pun intended. So I was instructed to, as well as certain factions of the military, namely what you would call Solar Warden, and has since the 80s changed, but that is the general idea. If you look up Solar Warden, or if you see people talking about it, that's what they're referencing, a US-born space fleet. And by space we mean, if anybody's actually referencing the real thing, is electrogravitic craft which enable what you could call space travel, atmospheric travel, and then further, but that will have to be explained a little bit more concisely as far as what space travel entails and what the possibilities and the range of distance actually denotes. It's a little bit different than you would think. So I was instructed to speak on these issues. There are many issues pending. I was allowed, permitted, granted, instructed to do this because I love humanity. I love the people watching this. I tried to respect myself and humanity, and namely, maybe ultimately, the truth. That we can disrespect ourselves. In many ways we can disrespect each other, and ultimately we're disrespecting the truth. We're not giving attention to the truth, to the real issues, to what we're actually doing here, to who we actually are, and this is what this is all about. Respect, healing, love, unity, awareness, and the truth. And the truth is harsh in many ways, but that's also our adherence to accepting ignorance, to accepting lies. And so it's really not harsh. It's our behavior, our response to it, and what we've been led to believe before these events, before these disclosures, before these personal awakening or epiphanies begin to show us something different. Let's see if the camera will fall. I'll re-edit it if it does. So that was why I'm allowed to do this, because I'm not here to start a war. It's not about that. It doesn't mean there aren't pending issues. It doesn't mean some of these theories going around are complete BS. It also doesn't mean that they're accurate. If anything that causes fear, or is fear-based, or takes the power away from you to decide your own fate, chances are it's a form of controlled opposition, controlled disclosure, or disinformation, excuse me. And so I'm trying to think back to my notes because I don't have the computer because my roommate was being a little loud playing the video games, which is fine. But don't play too many games. Your mind will end up inside of a simulator versus interacting with reality and the people out here. And so that's why I believe I'm involved. They chose me, and there's thousands of other people. There's apparently over 1 million or more involved directly with what I was involved in. So I'm just the guy I'm the friggin' goat, because people do not enjoy being told these things. So I'm the guy that gets kicked in the nuts out here by 100 million people for telling the truth. But that's fine. We'll get through it in our own ways. And anytime there is dissonance or resistance to what's going on, as long as what's going on is more information and truth coming out, then it's something that has to be worked out within ourselves. So that's all part of the healing process. The resistance, the thrashing about at the first initial moments of waking up. And so there are issues, and it's namely about what humanity will become, about where this tech is going to go, where these events are going to take us, how we're going to spiritually evolve and mature in coming into awareness of what this place, this environment is, what this universe is and all, and what our minds are, and how everything, life at that point, from a biological standpoint, chemical, material, science, all the way up to these metaphysical concepts regarding consciousness, awareness, and the soul. And and so one good thing to say about that is there's a pretty interesting video. There's obviously a former soft disclosure. Guy sitting around a table deciding how to decide certain things on, I guess, for the rest of the world in a TV show or something. And it was people aren't wearing enough hats. You can search that, you'll find the title. And they talked about why aren't people wearing enough hats or something like that, and then what is the meaning of life or the universe. And it was that one main discrepancy is that matter is energy, and there are many different types of energies in the universe that we can't see, some of which more or less, in so many words, relate to the soul. And it went on to say that the soul is not an automatic, it's not default. In essence, that every person that is born with the soul, or every person that lives has a soul. So the idea, and they went on, and it's interesting, and said a soul is formed through maintained focus on the self to induce self-awareness, or guided focus maintained on the self, which the guided part could mean that somebody with this intelligence would have to help a person one way or another, from higher correspondence level to another, or however that's going to work, into organizing their focus, like a guided meditation throughout their life, into developing soul awareness or self-awareness. And so it's an interesting point. It's not an evil thing that some don't have a soul. That's it. It's not an evil thing. It's the fact that there are some people with high awareness, and there are some people that have not reached high awareness yet, regardless of whether they will or they won't later. It's just that that's the situation we're in now. And so that's the main idea. And so you could say a good portion of this is about helping initiate this guided focus maintained on self-awareness for the world, for as many people as possible. Then they went on to say that distraction, many people do not achieve that awareness because of distraction. Simple as that, because they get distracted at a bird, piece of candy, a TV show, whatever. And the scene ended in a pretty funny way if you want to look up that video. And so that's what's happening now. The main thing is that fear is the primary distraction. It is fear. When our emotions go one way or the other, and we have this imbalance based upon a dual spectrum, and we don't get to the point of realizing that duality is just perpendicular to another duality, and so on and so forth, until you get a trinity, which is then in motion and changing in flux. And until we find the center of that, just as we found the center of the single duality, the extremes, we're getting pushed around by the elements, by emotions, by the programming of the physical universe and the chemicals of the brain, rather than the observing immaterial force guiding that. And so the only way to get through fear is to embrace it, is to find that fear, whatever it is that's causing fear in a person, and to walk through it, to walk through the flames, to open the door to go past. So the higher awareness, the love, compassion, care, and these are different ideas. You know, our language is degraded. Love, compassion, and care doesn't always mean the same thing. You know, or love of one, love of something else, love of food. It's not the same love, but it's compressed into one word, and that reduces our expanse of the understanding of etymology and all these linguistic ability to express and translate, and it compresses something so vast into something so basic. But and just like care not necessarily meaning the care or worry or something like that, but the accuracy, the acuity, and the focused awareness. So those principles, that general idea, the higher awareness principle regarding those things, that is the key to open the door, to get behind fear. That is the whole point. Application, motivation, willpower, that is the act of walking through the door. And so the whole situation with what's going on in the world is they're leading humanity to the door. You know, they being people. A lot of, there are beings out there. Of course there are. You know, you have, we're a form of an individual organism. We're made up of trillions of individual organisms within us, whether it's bacteria or a part of us like cells, and which is a corrupted word, cell. A lot of people look into etymology and the words magic and spelling and all that. They'll know what I'm talking about. You know, you're trapped in a cell. You don't live in a cell. But in the same way we're composed of that, well, this world out here is a living organism, and we're the individual units of consciousness for that. So at the very least, we're in a bigger organism. We're in a larger organism. Could there be larger versions of our individual unit consciousness that are way beyond our spectrum of awareness, consciousness, and all the rest? I'm going to come out here more often, by the way. It is extremely easy to expand my mind and talk about these topics without worrying about being interrupted. It's actually a freedom. It's freedom out here. So we got to protect the environment. It'll get technologically altered anyway, but at least, pick a side, whether you're gonna, however it's gonna end up. So there are other beings. We are part of a larger one, and we can achieve realization within ourselves without becoming something else, but as a person, and become an awakened person, man or woman, without getting too occultic and weird about what it looks like or what it's going to be or the steps to get there. The steps, as far as I'm bringing to you, is just by going through the fear being the things that separate us to each other, from one another, and within ourselves, making those individual units, the fear, the lack of harmony, whether it's food or waking and sleeping cycles or energy expenditure, mind or body. When they're disharmonic, then our cells, our organs, our system, glandular systems, they're no longer working in sync. They're no longer one being, okay? When you get those beings that are already into trillions of organisms, when they're not working together, that one being, which is the whole thing, it degrades, it suffers. So that's the whole point. When we work together, we produce that harmony, and we create an over-unity, a harmonized self. That is consciousness. That is what allows you to wake up in the morning, That is what forces you to go to bed at night, because that needs a rest. That needs a break every few hours, depending on what you do and how you interact with the world, how you spend your energy. And so there are other beings, but the people organizing a lot of things are people. They're people who awakened their minds. It's that simple. There is an elite and there is a front elite, a type of control system set up through that. So don't get too carried away with focusing on the elite or the differences in society and all that. And the differences are there to define ourselves. You you have a difference between your eyes and your, lower extremities, so that you have a being, you have an organized structure that can produce these possibilities in life where you can interact in nature and with each other in a certain way. If you didn't have that difference, we'd be like big, floating amorphous masses floating around, which would be an experience in itself. But that's the whole point. With that difference, with that contrast comes difficulty. With that difficulty comes all the lessons and experiences that we get to enjoy. Or if you don't pay attention and keep the correspondence between levels and know where is a time to pick up and do the work and where is a time to relax and allow that to sink in, you're not going to get either. It's just going to be one big mess, and you're going to have to get comfortable with that, which is in itself a lesson. And that's a touch on the 7 Hermetic Principles. Check out that video by Spencer. He gave a lecture on it. It's very good. Sparked my mind on it. Haven't heard it spoken about in that way, with that clarity, since earlier times. So there are a lot of changes coming. This has to do with the technology, ultimately how we're going to use our minds, how our minds are going to advance. Once our minds advance, and we're already watching it, we interact with nature, we interact with technology, we interact with each other, we interact with ourselves and the universe and the knowledge that's out there in a way different format, way amped up. Look at the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, and then compare that. I'm not too far away from society. Compare that to what's going on today with these smartphones, these these tablets that allow you to basically have a computer faster than a lot of laptops, anywhere, at any time. That's funny. Almost looks like presidential airplanes. Near Andrews Air Force, they fly by sometimes. We're highly advanced, especially in the past 40, 50 years. And imagine that what we have now is a degraded version, because at the time in the 40s and 50s and 60s, they developed an advanced version of these computer systems that has no delay. You pick the delay, you pick the limit of memory, RAM, and processing power, so that, depending on what you need, you don't need to haul around something that can, do a supercomputer's worth of information. And so, but those were all classified and brought out of public view, because it would, look how much things have changed in these short amount of years with just the reduced version of the power and the technology and awareness, the knowledge, the information processing power that has been released over time. It rocked everyone to the core. We're literally becoming a cyborg race. And I don't mean that through chips or neural interfaces yet, but if you spend more time talking to a device that then communicates with other people for you in a way, you're channeling through that, your mind is half on the computer, half in reality. And without the smartphones, without the computers, the TV took care of that. People spent, their minds were processing what you see out here is actually occurring in here. You're not actually interacting with what's out here. It's all a big projection system. There's a delay between the sensation actually occurring and the sensation, or the stimulus, and the sensation being felt in here. There's a little delay. In that delay, the brain makes a mirror image of what it perceives to be that sensation. And once the sensation goes in, and there's a delay, then there's a mirror image. That's when the observer inside, and the person in a trials or whatever it is, presses the button and says, I feel the response. We never actually feel the direct stimulus. It's a projection system. It's very clever. You couldn't get such an expanse experience if it wasn't. It would be like a basic calculator system versus a computer running a virtual box that you can test out software and make these environments in. We're basically running in simulated environments through a hologram within our heads. The idea is, if we see on a computer or a TV in earlier times, and what we're seeing in here is what's coming out of a screen, a device, well then that's where we are in here. We're in a device. So people have been merging with technology, cyborg existence, for many years now. That's how it worked. And there are certain issues with that. Hive mind capability. All right, we're all in a hive mind, imagine, because we're in a biological morphogenic hive mind now. That's how DNA works. It's the, look up DNA as a quantum biological internet, Russian scientists theorize. That's the stuff from the 60s that they figured out, like, oh, well, you tweak this, you turn that, galactic consciousness, cosmic awareness. It's all frequencies. But imagine we all plugged into a tech system, and it gets infected. Well, shoot, now we're all infected. Those are the issues. So a good point to bring up is that this is actually what's been happening for thousands of years. Our DNA is a biological internet that got infected. It got infected with a type of mind virus. That's why our civilization, our society, has gone to war with itself. You gotta imagine that you get to a place and it's just beautiful. They got everything they need, and then in the corner over there, they're punching each other in the face for no reason. They have a virus. There's some type of self-destructive virus that's taking hold. Some say this is the ego itself. Some say this was introduced at the start of our civilization in this you call it a planet, in this realm, like dimension that we formed in mentally, and then our bodies came or something organized with that. And so then that would mean that the way the brain interacts, not evolved, but the way it interacts with itself, there are some distortions there. And so then, not necessarily that modifications are the key to that, but learning how to discern between the distortions of what is you're feeling, and then what is that delay where your conscious mind perceives the unconscious programming code, the filtration of what's actually being sensed. That's basically the process. You have to filter the filtration that's already occurring automatically and figure out what you're not perceiving properly, what you're missing, what your brain is blocking out from you seeing. The point is, somebody holds up something and everyone sees the same exact thing, then we're all bots, we're robots. In this world, our childhood, the way it's heavily related to trauma. This is why trauma is related to these systems. If you can handle trauma, you can handle the distortions and you can correct them. When we all develop trauma through our childhood, and so we all develop trauma, and so that causes us to distort the information that we are perceiving. It distorts our experiences, and in distorting the experiences, it distorts our relationships and our self-image, and thus the image that we project out into the world. So we have to get through that trauma. And the idea is it's not necessarily a traumatic, test or something like that. It's the fact that, it is a test, but it's the fact that just being born in this place and growing up in this type of situation, this environment where people are disconnected, it is trauma-inducing, and that's the source of that. So these issues are all being influenced, affected, and handled here very quickly. To put it in a couple sentences, these issues are coming to a close. They figured out a way to rise these distortions, make them apparent, plain as day, and give people the opportunity to let them go, to let go of the fear, and in doing so to go past the fear, and to lose the boundaries of the distortions that are present in this physical layer. Doesn't necessarily mean we leave the physical layer behind, but I've seen some things, and so once you lose the boundaries, you go on from there. There's a whole universe to explore. That's the whole point. It's not like we're in a dump over here, but the way our minds are working, this is literally like a Commodore 64 compared to, the quantum supercomputers that are coming out. That's how we can interact. And the point is that our energy systems, our immaterial consciousness, which connects through an extra dimensional physics model, higher dimensional physics model, it goes at the speed of light. It's as if this universe and the physical universe is bounded by a limit, but that limit is our perspective. It's our perception. It's not actually out here in the physical matter. It's our mind, and it's giving us like a frame rate based upon our mind. And that's what or our brain really, but that's what the limit is. And so then if our minds change the limit that's out here, it disappears and it is no more. Excuse me. So yeah, there's a lot to be said, but you can't. You can, but you don't want to go you don't want to go from a Commodore 64 to a supercomputer if you're still regurgitating the distortions, the fear-based programming of the lower forms. That's not helpful at all. It's painful, and it's dangerous for others as well. A whole society doing that would revert to animalism. That's the point. So some of the basics. Getting a little chilly, sun's going down, setting sun. And trying to think back to my notes. Yeah, love and awareness, big change is coming. We have to come together in unity. Imagine we're all coming together because we don't want this system to ruin our height of spiritual maturity. Okay, well then come together in spiritual maturity. Come together in union to create spiritual maturity. Don't come together and burn stuff and break stuff down. That's part of a program. It's closing out. Everyone who takes part in this ritual of destruction, well, you're gonna be held responsible for that. That's how it works. This whole place is recording. Space itself is a kind of video camera tape recorder. That's literally what we're in. Nassim Haramein says, and this is a good saying, phrase maybe. Time is space memory. It's like space multiplied into itself, and within that concave, convex, fractal organization. Dan Winter talks about the fractal organization as well. Santos Bonacci talks about this a little bit, not too much, but he talks about a lot of the syncretism, I think, excuse me for that, and it all relates. It's as if within that fractal multiplication you get space referencing other space itself. So it's literally like it's time flowing out is memory. It's a spatial quantum temporal recording system. So that's what everything is. It's all measured through frequency and vibration. It's part of what the advanced technology allows. They figured out you could set up an area, a grid, and match the frequencies to another area somewhere else, and you could literally recreate that inside a grid, like a simulator. And you can view certain areas and things like that. And then they got it real advanced so you could actually interact with it. Imagine that. If this was set up to match the frequency in your house on a screen, and yours is matching mine, we're matching the same one, therefore they're linked in space-time. And I said this in one of my earlier videos. This is how a lot of this information works. It's how a lot of the technology works. You wouldn't need to hide or do weird stuff or whatever if you had this type of technology. We could sit here and shake each other's hands, high-five each other. The space would be linked. So that means not just a delay and a channel goes up and then it's the illusion that we're communicating because we're on a flat screen. It means the atomic space, which atoms is one definition of what's actually here. It's really just energy. The atomic space would be folded together to the point where you touch that space, I touch that, we're touching each other. That's how it works. It's a form of teleportation, but more so, there's a specific word for it. It's basically it's like a shared meeting space. It's one of the pieces of technology that's used. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's other advanced tech which allows scalar tech, which allows for a mind interface for these computer systems, these intelligence systems. So, imagine again, your mind is the interface. You have dirty fingers and you're typing on a keyboard. You're not necessarily going to infect the computer, but you're going to infect the input devices. Imagine you have E. coli on your fingers. The next person that uses that, it's not a mind link. Well, they touch their face, they're going to get E. coli. So imagine now you have a mind interface computer. That's why these systems are protected. That's why the technology is protected. Imagine they went and gave this technology out as soon as they found it. Could you imagine what would happen? It might have been like the stories of a previous universe where it destroyed itself. That's what could have happened. And so then you get the idea is that this is basically a simulated version of what would happen had that didn't happen. And then you get to the idea that nothing's actually happening because it's all a simulator. You can't actually have the real thing because it's physical space. It all has to be programmed in order for it to work, which is interesting, but it's a little bit farther out there. Mainly if you achieve higher awareness, you see all the things that could happen in the possibilities because you can process all these possibilities, and so at that point, everything that could happen has already happened because you're viewing it, you're capable of viewing that in your mind. So the only way you have the happening that we call now linear time and physical space is if you chop out some of that, overmind and create a small portion, a virtual box of the brain that you experience a portion of what the whole of what you would know is, and in that way experience the essence of what you do know in a contrast to the whole sea of what could be known, which we basically, that's called life. That's what we call life, where we come here, we don't know things, and we learn things, and as we learn, it changes us. Well, if you knew everything already because you were an energetic construct, a soul, there would be no change, there would be no experience. That's the point. But you would also know everything. And this world would look like a game at that point. It would look like a little video game. You got to program in, and then you go in and experience things. So, 30 minutes. That's good. I love the energy out here. It's crazy. I'll have to make sure I put a scarf on first. I have them all in my bag right there. I was, yeah, I know how to wrap up with the scarf and all that stuff. I can just sit out here when it hits 20 degrees. I'm fine with this t-shirt and a $40 jacket like this. It's amazing. That's amazing to me. I can have a phone right there and record the video out here with enough battery, because these batteries are very good. The phone's very clear. And wrap up with cheap $40 hiking boots I've had for 2 years now, and they're starting to wear through, I'm not gonna lie, but I have another pair at the house for $40, $50, and those are like, they're like the upgraded version of these. It's crazy. And simple materials. And we did what earlier people in society, you know, well, I mean, technically we're not doing it too much, because they would do it all the time, building, you know, huts, or maybe the pilgrims, stuff like that. But anyone can do that. Anyone can become, you know, a free man on the land at this point. A little bit more complicated, but it's a beautiful thing. We have all this out here to experience, to get to know, to learn ourselves learn about ourselves through. And people are worrying about weird stuff, shopping, fighting each other over crazy stuff. All right, that's not an advancement. That's a sign of degradation. And it's all going to be handled. Put your star on the tree. Adorn your tree of life and your tree of knowledge with the red and blue and gold glitter, the lights. Light it up. Forget about the presence at the bottom of the tree. That's an illusion. Materialism is an illusion. Trace your path in a spiral staircase up your tree until your star enlightens on top. And then you'll know Christ. Forget about the presence at the bottom with the dirt and the worms and the X at the bottom of the tree and the circle around the X. You don't need that. It's not important. You see what people do when they focus on that. They scrounge around like animals and fight. That's not going to help them. It's going to help them by showing them what not to do and showing us what not to do, for all who want to actually see the truth and get the light of that star on top. So, yep, that's a little bit about that. A lot of changes coming. Specifically having to do with technology and awareness. All about fear. Get through fear. We can get through it all. I mean, fear is the only barrier in this universe, because it's all created in your mind. The fear and this universe. So, well, then what could hold you back? Well, nothing. We're free. Then why are we afraid? Why do we hold ourselves back? In other words, we hold ourselves back. We're the only thing that holds ourselves back. And there are many games being played, though, for those who are interested in fears like this. If they're going to buy those presents, if they're going to spend and give their star away in order to get those presents at the bottom of the tree that nobody really needs anyway, someone's going to sell it to them. They've been doing it. And there's change happening now. We're entering, they call it some Starfire stellar activation cycle. Half of what we even came up with is just words to give people a concept that they can speak to other human people, like, not like they're not human, but the fact that it's a language, and they'll understand or have some way of making sense of this. Otherwise, it just looks like a whole bunch of energy and changes and DNA activation and all this. It's really weird to comprehend. We don't have words for this, so you get stellar activation cycles, stuff like that. But and within that, the charades of lying to people, deceiving people openly, getting people to say, hey, you're not using that star up there. How about I trade you for this box of worthless electronic goods? Not worthless, but the way they use it, worthless. And that's apparently coming to an end. They proved their point. They got their method of teaching people. So now there's another method that's going to come out. And it's not necessarily going to be a combatants between that, or competition. It's look at Michael Kavanagh. I said his name Kavanagh before. It's funny occurrence with that. if everybody remembers enough, then the people involved will remember it. He talks about a lot of things. He's very aware of what's going on. He'll tell you some things. There's 666 and 777, 666, ego death, okay. Self-destruction through ego. Not even ego death, but ego existence. 777, physically realized perfection of man. They're switching over. 777 is a signal they began pulsing out up until this time, years ago. And these are the people who showed me huge machines where they pulse out stuff, and it's like they create our society. They gear it, they schedule it. And for higher awareness, it goes somewhere, something's going in it. What is that? Why would they do that? But there are people that are out here doing that, that's the point. But the 666 was for containment, to get out the darkness, to expand it, and so you can see it and go, there it is, and heal it, or distance yourself, or get it all in one space. And the 666 will close itself out on its own. It'll be allowed to run until people keep, like Joe Rogan says, hitting themselves in the dick with a hammer while other people over there are building houses, building complexes. So, shout out Joe Rogan, he's cool. And there's so many people out there that are highly aware, just relaxing, you know, don't get involved in the charades, in this destruction. It'll be handled from above. You know, unify for peace. If you're unifying to tear down this BS deception system, do it by creating anew. The plan, anew, not directly related. The plan is, there's two ways to go about it. You create by destroying the old, and you literally destroy the old, if that's your way of going about it. And in that, you become one with the mind of the creator, because only the creator can destroy, because the act of destruction is the other end of the act of creation. But that's the pathway that you go to that. If a person is doing that, I don't mean you, but that's the pathway the person would go to that. And it's connected to the snake eating itself, Ouroboros. And so then there's another version of that, the transcendence pathway, where you create, you make a new world. Any world. World is even a corrupted word. It means world. We're spinning. We're mind boggled here. It's existence, a reality. There's many of them. Just turn the dial and you get to a new channel. New channel, nadis, spine, lights up a tree. And so then by adding, you add and add and add, and that act is simultaneously destruction. And you don't have to actually watch it crumble and burn. No, it doesn't have to rise up out of the ashes, because it is simultaneously doing that forever. Just like right now, I'm pulsing in and out of reality, and my cells are dying and being reborn. It's a complete creation and destruction process as it's happening. But I don't sit here and notice myself dying. Now when it runs its course, and there's not the ascension, okay, then you get the creation destruction. But that doesn't have to be that way. Literally. Doesn't have to be that way. You can walk through that fire, walk through that gate. It's about a time gate scenario, synchronizing your mind with the mind of the universe as it completes itself, so that you can pop out of it and go, aha, that was amazing. I was there, I'm present before, I'm present in it, and I'm present after it. And it was all me. But everyone gets to do that. So yeah. And that's just, but the point is to do that, to live, and keep your body up, keep your mind up, keep others up, and a whole society to keep themselves up. You would have to have compassion. And with that compassion, you would have to have care of knowing where to discern and where to carefully interpret that contrast between planes and come up with the right responses and actions, instead of reacting like it's programming, like it's lower animal. That's a little bit. I can go on for hours. I'll probably write down, literally, honestly, I'll write down the topics. I had, I think, 10 or so before. They're not, I can't see them on the screen. I probably got most of them, at least 8, and then a little some of some other ones. It's 40 minutes in. I hope you enjoy it. Look up Devin Maggi. He's I had to say something. He's doing a lot of videos, the word etymology. Everything's a metaphor. This situation right here, a tree growing out the ground, is a metaphor. A person that walks and talks and has eyes, 2 eyes, biopic, half-brained, bipolar. It's all metaphors. It's all metaphors. Everything is. And so he's breaking a lot of stuff down. It's really interesting. I don't agree with everything. I also don't know where exactly he got things from, but I have seen him before. I'll just say that. And it's going to open people's minds. The doorway's in there. You just need the key and the motivation to go. Alright, so thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day and year and life, and we will definitely see more soon. Thank you.